Well, hello and welcome on into another movie review from MBE. I'm one of your co-hosts, Stephen John McLaughlin. Our other co-host and probably main presenter for this format, it's John C. Walsh. How are you doing, John?
Format, Stephen. What is a format? There is no
It's all a
format
state
here.
of mind.
This is all off the cuff,
Well,
straight
guys,
from our brains.
we did promise you we would do a movie review on Andhadhun, and we are doing it.
Andhadhun.
Yeah. John, you said you were not going to do that. Threw me under the bus right away.
Andhadhun to me.
Yeah, Andhadhun.
Andhadhun.
Whatever it is, that's what we're doing anyway. From 2018, John. This is directed by Siram Raghavan and stars the likes of Tabu, Ayushman Khurrana,
The main
Radhika
man,
Apte,
Akash.
Anil Dhawan and Manav Vij. I think we've mentioned the main 5 players in this, who we'll probably be talking about the most anyway as we go through this review experience, John. But I'm going to pass it over to you now and you can take us through this review experience.
And I'll start by the actual rating system that we utilise on this channel, Stephen.
Yeah.
It used to be an F to an A+. Plus, that has been scrapped. We now use a basic 1 to 10 scale, sliding scale. 1, an utter horror show. Not a movie you would ever wish to see. I have never seen a one. I have seen some bad movies. John Travolta's The Fanatic, I think it was. That's not even a 1.
Yeah.
There is ones out there. I've just not watched them. This movie is not a 1, rest assured. All the way up to a 10. A 10 is an outstanding movie. It's perfection. It is the likes of The Godfather, The Godfather 2, The Shawshank Redemption, Apocalypse fucking Now, American Psycho. I'd say not even this Psycho from Alfred Hitchcock. Actually, American Psycho. I love that movie.
Yeah.
Not a 10. Talking crap. That's the rating system, Stephen. That's how we rate the movies. So bear that in mind when we get to the end and we actually give this a numerical rating out of 10.
Yes.
That will give you a sense of where we view this movie on our scale. That doesn't mean that's where what you rate the movie. I'm just putting that out there now because there will be people. We've seen it, Stephen. You've put shots out. People have disliked my videos in particular because I've gave it a rating they don't agree with. That's
Yeah.
not your rating.
Yeah.
That's my rating. You have your rating. Perfectly entitled to have it. That aside, Stephen, the way we usually structure these reviews, this is going to be very laid back, chilled, off the cuff. We'll basically break down the story.
Yeah.
We'll break down the structure of the movie. We'll break down technical stuff. We'll break down acting performances. We will discuss this movie, Stephen. And I'm going to start with Sriram Raghavan, a director who's only did 10 movies.
Yeah.
We've not had any interactions with this man's work to date. This is the very first time we've watched one of his movies. We, of course, Stephen, reacted to the trailer a good year and a half ago.
Forgot
I was
about it.
taken
Yeah.
by the trailer. I thought it looked very interesting. It was a unique concept, certainly from the movies we had watched to date.
It must have been a
From India.
recommendation though, John, that trailer reaction, because it
was.
had already been out 3
good
years
bit,
at
yeah.
that point. It's obviously a 4-year-old film now, so
But it was catchy, Stephen. The
Yeah,
trailer, the
yeah.
vibe. This main man, Akash, had this sort of little maverick streak about him. And I just liked the tone change in the middle of the actual trailer itself. The other time I was taken by a tone shift in the trailer was Parasite. So I was looking forward to seeing this at some point. It took us a while. We went down many rabbit holes, but we finally got into watching this movie, Stephen. That aside though, as we said, not seen much of Sriram's work. This is our first sort of interaction with the director. How did you think the director did? Before we get into the actual structure, Stephen, because the single most important thing in a movie is the main man helming the movie. It's his sort of creative project. He's written them. He wasn't the primary writer. He wrote the movie alongside Aryat Bishwas and Yogesh Chandakar.
yeah.
There was 3 writers. This is also his project.
I always like it, John,
And
when
you can tell when he's up for it.
Yeah, when a director is involved in the writing, it always helps. I think it's something that they're very passionate about. Then that's the kind of indication I get from any director that is involved in the writing, because they're invested in the story, invested in the characters.
Something as complex as this as
Well,
well,
yeah.
Stephen. It's a complex story.
Particularly the last 40 minutes of it, John. I felt, and I know we'll get into structure and we'll get into the positives and negatives about the structure as well, as the review rolls merrily forward. But in terms of directing, John, you're right. I think he's done a few television stuff, mostly some shorts. I don't know how
he
many.
was a writer in the 90s.
Yeah, I don't know how many of these films that he's directed have been big films. Maybe somebody in the comments section can help us out here. But in terms of this film, I thought he handled it well, considering the complexity of the structure. And
performances he got out
the performances, John, was
There's
very
some big
important.
names in there.
There is, yeah.
Taboo, we were informed, one of the best actresses on the subcontinent, so he's working with some brilliant names here.
And you look at IMDb, it comes under comedy, crime, music, mystery and thriller.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing to juggle. In terms of, I know we'll get into the structure, John, but when everyone recommended this, they were saying this is a good mystery thriller. And it's funny because the first 20 to 30 minutes of this, it came off like a romantic comedy. But the tone did shift. But I know we're going to get into that anyway, John. But
Steve,
I thought he handled it well.
Yeah, I mean, I get vibes of La La Land from this movie. At different sections, he had this brief interaction, sort of potent romantic relationship with the Rodica, Apty character Sophie.
Yeah.
And then they break up. They move their separate ways. Then at the end, which we'll get into, because I actually enjoyed the ending quite a bit.
Yeah.
Very reminiscent of La La Land when Mia and Seb sort of cross paths again after many years, and it's a sort of what if situation. But it wasn't to be. They've made different lives from themselves. But I thought the director did a great job of getting performances out of a wide range of ages in the actors. We were speaking about Taboo, I think she's 51, 52. Anil Dewan's way older again. This man's fucking prehistoric.
Veteran, yeah.
Ayushmann Khurrana is like late 30s. Radhika Apte's sort of mid 30s. At this point, they would have been younger, early to mid 30s, late 40s.
Different personalities, John, in these characters as well, which was very important. You know, I don't know the actors, so I can't really base it on that, but I'll base it on the personalities within the characters, all different shapes and sizes, if you like.
How many times though, Stephen, have we seen like a Ranjinikamp walking with sort of a lesser experienced at that point VG Seth Apathi?
Yeah.
Or something like that, a huge age gap. You get a veteran actor and a younger actor. It's very hard to pull that off in terms of performances, not making the situation relax for the younger actor, and it rubs off in the performance. They're in awe of this sort of veteran, and it damages their performance. I've seen Manoj Bajpayee in interviews speaking about how he was on set with some of his heroes back in the day, and it almost disrupted his performance because he was in awe of them, just being in their presence.
John, it's a universal thing, isn't it, though? It's something that all actors experience throughout the globe. It's not just privy to Indian acting, and we have seen it. You're absolutely right, and you use Rajinikanth as an example. That's a great example. One thing I have learned since watching Indian cinema is you know a veteran actor, and although we don't know much about Anil Dewan, we both questioned, is this guy a veteran actor? Because we're seeing, is this archival footage? Is he playing himself? We didn't know too much. Obviously he wasn't playing himself, but they were using stock footage of his work from maybe the 1970s and the 1980s to sort of reference this character, the Pramod character, and his sort of career he's had. But you can always sense a veteran actor, John. You can always sense it regardless of where it is in the world.
Taboo, I mean, at that point she would have been veteran. She'd have been late 40s. Probably been around the industry for a good 20 years. And you can tell, Stephen, in the performance that he gets from her. She's the main villain in this. She's almost like a pantomime sort of.
She gets under your skin,
Is that the word, vaudevillian? Is that, I don't know. May have made that up. Sort of villain. She's sort of larger than life villain, but also funny as hell. So for me, I thought the director, just getting this review off the sort of foundational stage, I thought he did a brilliant job. In terms of the story, Stephen, as we say, it's a very complex story. You says yourself, the first act is first 40 minutes in a sense. First 30 minutes, I'd say, is very much introducing us to Akash. This sort of guy, he's a blind man, but very quickly, it's revealed very quickly that he isn't blind. It's all an act. And obviously he's doing it for artistic reasons, to sort of heighten his senses whilst he's sitting at this piano. He's a pianist, not a pianist.
Yeah, John.
Because I think someone says in the comments.
I know it was me because I don't use that word.
Pianist. The reason I use that word is because it's fucking the correct word. I think of the pianist.
Yeah, people say a piano player,
Yeah, piano player. That's not fucking right. He's a pianist. A pianist.
A guitar player.
When he's sitting, guitar player, guitarist. When he's sitting at the piano, that helps him perform better. It reduces the distractions. That's introduced very early on. The relationship, his interactions with Sophie, very potent, romantic sort of relationship they go on. They have this sort of one night stand, I want to call it. That's all introduced in the first 40 minutes of this movie. It's her that brings the interactions with Simi and obviously Pramod to the forefront in this movie. It's almost Sophie's fault, which is ironic, because as you get to the middle part of the movie and you get to the end of the movie, she's almost harbouring a grudge against him. Or you're conning other people, are you?
Yeah.
She's angry at him for lying about his blindness or lack of at that point. But it's her that brings him into this sort of trendy little bar where he's playing the piano. He catches the interest of Pramod and thrusts him into this horrific situation he has to face in this movie. It's all down to Sophie. But the first half of the movie isn't the most enjoyable for me, Stephen. It doesn't really get first third of the movie, first quarter. It's not until we're in that apartment of Pramod's.
You're kind of full blown going into a romantic comedy, basically, in the first half hour. You're going right into a genre. And I get it. I get they're trying to establish characters very early on. They're trying to get us to understand the dynamics between the characters as well, and what their purpose is in the film. The Sophie character for me was largely in that first half of the film and then fell away, obviously. But I get it, because she's obviously not talking to him, so it's all through his sort of perspective as well. And that it's one thing we talked about as well, John, and I think some people in the comment section as well, on the community, were talking about this as well, in terms of the narrative of this. Akash is our main sort of master of ceremonies, and it's going to be his version of events as well. So how reliable are those versions of events?
We've seen that with Joker.
We get that obviously later on in the film in terms of interpretation. A lot of people have highlighted it in the community as well. Things that we didn't pick up on, John.
I'm completely blanking on the very start of the movie where it's a rabbit.
The
scene with the rabbit.
Yep.
And I think that's just laying this sort of foundation of, I don't know, what's to come in this movie. They're laying you mentioned that he's the master of ceremonies, he's the main guy. That's almost the key to the mystery. At the end, he's making this whole story up based off of a cane he's got with a rabbit. And the theme of that animal is something that's prevalent throughout. You mentioned the T-shirt at one point when we did the watch along. It's throughout, that animal is throughout the actual movie.
It's funny, it's a strange one, because that sequence with the rabbit, I think I might have said during the watch along, I don't know if it made the cut or not, I said, what was that all about? I don't understand what it was all about. We assumed the car crash, the screeching of the car was him, and that's how he's blinded. But it wasn't.
We didn't realise at that point he was acting. So what is structurally, we'll get into the structure, I'm sure we'll get into it right now.
Might as well, John.
Structurally, the movie is definitely very interesting. How they play the different acts, how, as you says, they use Sophie almost as a conduit to bring, as I says, I should say, to bring Akash in to the sort of forefront of this destructive marriage, I'm going to call it. It ends with a death. That's her primary reason.
She brings him to the club. He's introduced obviously to Pramod,
and then that brings him in to see me, and obviously Manohar, the inspector, the sort of bumbling 16 egg a day Inspector Manohar.
Egg a day.
He's just, honest to God, an absolute gimp of a character in this movie.
In terms of his performance, John, I know we'll get into that as well. It was brilliant. You said it was similar to what you would watch in those old black and white comedy.
Charlie Chaplin, sort of Oliver Hardy.
Buster Keaton's type thing. He was very animated, very physical in his sort of approach.
And what helped that, Stephen, and that look, I'll get into that as well. This is off the cuff. There's going to be no rhyme or reason to this fucking review. We're not going to try and keep the shackles on. We'll just, as we're coming up and saying things, we'll speak one mind. That scene in the apartment with the body, Pramod is lying slumped and Akash is playing the piano, trying to kid on he's not seen anything or is seeing anything, and he's playing the piano music. It's overlaying just the most bizarre shit you'll ever witness in a lifetime if you were in the unfortunate position he's in. They're dragging his body, they're cleaning up the smashed wine glass. He's sitting, putting a flat cap on, trying to look like Pramod. They've bungled the body into this fucking suitcase. You're right, Stephen, I did say that, and I think you agreed as well. It's almost like the sort of silent movies of 70 years ago. He's acting up in a sort of physical manner to the backdrop of this piano music, it's like a fucking callback. I can't help but think that was deliberate.
The situation as well, John, reminded me of a Coen Brothers film where you've got this ridiculous situation that they find themselves in,
that,
and instead of just doing things basic and getting out of there and moving on, everything spirals out of control. You get the nosy neighbours getting involved. Obviously, Akash is involved. He's going straight to the police station, and obviously the inspector's right there. I didn't notice him right away. It was you, John. It went, there he is, and I went, oh, I looked up and he was there.
When I seen him.
John, that was a nice shot though.
That was the best part of the movie,
because I felt the way that the sort of camera angled was focusing on Akash and who he was talking to behind the desk, and just in the background you see the inspector just looking, sort of peering over the door as if I'm here, by the way. And I didn't notice him at first, and I think that was a good trick from the camera, was to sort of, we're looking at the perspective of Akash, and he's focused on that I've got to tell them the truth and tell them what's happened, and then obviously that happens and he's got to say it was his cat went missing or something like that.
And Stephen was about to get into that, all the while building the Akash character, his personality. You're seeing that this guy's very quick of thought. He's good at bullshitting. And he will come up with things on the hop and try and bluff himself out of situations. You can see why he's lived this sort of double life of blindness when he's actually got sight, how he's able to then perhaps pull the wool over Sophie's eyes at the end. I don't think he did. I think she knew he had sight of some sort. I don't think she was buying it. She gave him a look at the end of the movie. But he's the sort of heroic protagonist who's thrust into this situation, but I wouldn't see he's a particularly whiter than white character.
No,
he's definitely got some naughtiness under the surface. This guy, he's
John,
not cleaner than clean.
You see that in the second, probably 2/3 of the way through. You're seeing it when they actually have the Semi character tied up, and you see the nastiness within Akash and the revenge in him, the vengeance in him. You know, that's driving. That's another thing about the structure, John. I know we're kind of getting back round the structure.
No,
in terms of that sort of sequence and that where we were at the story, and I'm thinking we still got a good 45-50 minutes of this to go. I thought this would have been the sort of climax, but then another thing happens, you know, and we'll get this other group of actors that come in, and they're all about transplants and taking organs out of bodies and stuff like that. It just there was never a time when I thought I knew what was going on and I can predict what was going on at all. But
it was intelligent, Stephen, in its utilisation, because the actual character Mavashi, also she's hanging around with I think it's Murley. They're the sort of Tweedledum and Tweedledee sort of dodgy Chancellor characters are selling the sort of scratch cards. She appears midway through the movie, or maybe not even that. I think it's round about the point just before he's going to the actual apartment to promote, to play for the actual anniversary or whatever the fuck it is. They introduce her sort of superficially, then she comes back at the end of the movie. You're like, I recognise that character. They do that throughout this movie. They'll introduce concepts and then they'll come back to it.
You talk about recognising people, John, in terms of Ayushmann Khurrana. We've seen so many films and we've seen so many trailers over the last 2 years in terms of Indian cinema, and sometimes it's very hard to keep track of all the faces, the familiar faces. For whatever reason, Ayushmann Khurrana I knew we hadn't seen. I knew we hadn't seen him in a film. We had seen him in a trailer though, because I did recognise his face, John. Batai Ho. He was in that one. It was the arranged marriage thing that was going on. You could check that out, the trailer reaction for it. A very funny trailer, John, but I don't know if you remember. It was 2 years ago, but that's what I recognised him from. I knew the face, but I knew we hadn't saw him in a film. Yeah,
I thought, and look, we'll get into the performance, I'm sure, but he was absolutely brilliant. Yeah, I mean, Stephen, I for me also the third act where all the cerebral stuff happens, that's when it all comes to the fore, what they've been building, and there's sort of twist galore going on in there. That has its plus and its negatives though, and we'll get into a negative just now in terms of the structure. You have to be fucking completely switched on. Thankfully I'm editing this movie, I'm editing the videos as we're going along, so I'm seeing this movie twice, sometimes 3 times, so I've seen everything.
In terms of a review, John, that benefits you, but in terms of watch along, it's first time reaction. And that's what we get judged on quite a bit.
We get judged on this first
because
time
it's
reaction.
first time, but it's very hard to pick up a lot of stuff first time round.
But it certainly is, Stephen. I didn't even recognise the rabbit was blind in the opening shot, and the sort of
It was you pointed
blind
out
in one eye,
yeah,
which was apparently the same as Akash at the end of the movie, potentially. Or the same. He was blind in one eye. I think the blindness was more prominent in this eye than in that, because when he puts his head in the actual bucket of water, you can see one eye's far.
That's
it's
right,
what's
yep.
going in the other.
Yep.
So the rabbit's him. He is the rabbit in that story. He's been shot at, he's been harried, but he ultimately prevails. He gets away, despite the sort of close brush with death, if you'd like. The Grim Reaper, the Black Widow that is Simi.
Yeah.
But where was I going with that? Yeah, structurally, man, the complexity of it, you need to be switched on watching this movie, Stephen. Yeah. And if you miss even one bit of dialogue, you're not paying attention to one scene. You get to the last 40 minutes, there's shit going on, you're like, what the fuck's happening here?
Yeah.
And I know you've not had the chance to perhaps watch the movie as many times as I have in editing.
Yeah.
And you certainly, your initial thoughts watching it, and look, I probably agree with you at the time, but since I've edited it, I'm now like, I see what they're doing here.
Yeah.
And it was the same with fucking Gangs of Wasseypur as well. When we were doing the watch along, there'd be things I'd be like struggling with, and then in the edit I'm seeing things, I'm like, oh, there you go, she's made this call, that's happened.
That's what you call a layered film though, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, it's got many layers, and I'm pretty sure most people in our community have probably seen Andhadhun a few times, not just once like myself. But John, in terms of structure, first time viewing, it can come across as a bit sketchy and a bit blink you miss it type thing, you know, and interpretation as well is important. A lot of sort of signs in there, a lot of messages that might go over your head if you're not paying attention. Certainly there would have been ones that went by my head, which I don't mind because I can always go back and watch this film and understand it a lot more. But in terms of basing it on that first time watch, and particularly the last 40 minutes of the film, there was twists and turns all the time. You ended up, you didn't know what to believe. You were maybe not trusting the characters as much as you were at the beginning of the movie, because they were all just kind of backstabbing each other. It's like a battle of survival at the end, particularly with the sort of three cast members that came in at the hospital scenes, the doctor and the other two.
Yeah, with Ashley Moorley, and I think it was Dr. Swami. Yeah,
you know, and you're thinking, they're going to team up, because, and we kind of made some predictions that were kind of right and some that were just way off in terms of they'll get more money for obviously Simi and obviously her organs and her partner. That didn't play out. He didn't even survive the elevator. So there's things in there.
Yeah, that's a negative as well, Stephen. They never address Manaha.
No,
what happened to him? He goes to black. He fires a shot. I was laughing my head off at that.
I think it's just to highlight the important. He's not that important, really. He's a gimp, as we like to say here. You know, and it was a good ending.
What was it? A bodybuilder made out of flatulence. 16 boiled eggs a day is not a good idea. If you want to do bodybuilding, I've dabbled with it. Certainly not got to like a fucking sort of Gudu, banging on his name here for some Pandit level. Yeah. That's a Mirzapur reference. Fasal. What's his second name?
Ali Fasal.
Ali Fasal. Yeah. That's why I'm blanking on it. I'm doing his second name first. It's been one of those days. I'm certainly not got to Ali Fasal's level of physique, an absolute monster, or a Salman Khan, for instance.
John, the bathroom scene though, with
boiled eggs,
with Akash and the inspector, when he says, "Can I use your bathroom?" after the murder, I thought it was very intense, because he's standing in the shower with a gun.
That was a great moment, Stephen.
But it shows you the character, you know, Akash, and how he could hold his nerve during the scene where they're wrapping up the body, and he's still playing the piano. I would have went to pieces up there. I'd have been in shock. He kept his calm, and especially in that bathroom scene as well. He knew he was there, but he had to pretend he couldn't sense him.
And we'll get into the acting. We have to talk about the performance of Ayushmann in that sequence. Just a little physical glance. You can see he's wearing glasses, and you can still see his glance to that guy sitting or standing to the side of him, and he has to act like he's not there. That is just absolutely stupendous. Some of the physical acting in this, because he is wearing glasses a lot of the time, is just brilliant. The fact he isn't blind in real life, a lot of those sequences he's took the sort of contact lenses off that make him look blind, and they're trying to weigh up and test him in his own apartment. They're like doing that, and they're throwing things at him. For him not to blink and not to look, absolutely brilliant acting from Ayushmann in those moments. And you talk about the sort of structure of the movie, Stephen. This is probably the final thing I'll say. We'll go on and speak about the story. I'm sure we'll move on to like, performances and stuff as well. But there's 3 distinct stories within this one story, for me anyway. At the start, you've got this sort of comedy romance musical sort of thing going on with the piano.
Yeah.
Sophie, obviously Akash. That happens. Then you've got the murder of Pramod, and it turns into a sort of crime fucking drama with musical elements. And then it turns into a full-blown mystery of what's going to happen with this guy. He's been blinded, getting into the final third, and then it's like fucking thriller elements going on in there as well. Is he going to get his eyesight back?
Yeah.
The sort of borderline Nolan mystery stuff getting mixed in at the end. Has he got his sight back? Did he hit that can deliberately? It's like this sort of spinning... I don't know what the fuck you call that even now from Inception.
Did Alfred see
Bruce Wayne?
Sitting obviously at the cafe? Was that just a vision, his dream? Yeah, it is. You're right.
You mentioned all the genres on IMDb. They dabble with all. They definitely juggle all those genres in this movie. It's not just there.
Yeah.
And it's like, but there's elements. They take these genres and fully fucking realise them in this movie, and they're split and spread over. Obviously the musical thing, him being a pianist, is the one constant throughout this entire movie, but they're dabbling with very distinct stuff through the different acts of this movie. Comedy, borderline romance, sort of crime stuff going on when the actual death happens, and it's bodies getting fucking old women getting thrown off balconies and stuff. It's like drama, sort of stuff like that. Then you get the thriller mystery in the final act. There's distinct stuff happening in each of the acts, and that makes it a very enjoyable watch. We didn't want to stop watching this movie.
There was elements of comedy throughout the other genres as well, John, whether it be slapstick, whether it be just that
dark
scene
humour.
You know, the scene with Simi beating Akash up when they were tied up, and then what was she hitting him with again?
With a crutch.
With a crutch,
No, the best bit is when she hit the doctor.
Hit the doctor,
The doctor came in.
That's physical comedy, you know, and everyone likes a good slapstick every now and again, but as you said, there was a lot of black and dark comedy in there as well.
When the neighbour gets thrown off the balcony,
you know?
He witnesses it, and he has to duck and kid on, he's bent down to get something, so she doesn't see his shock and sort of horror. There's so many moments in there of dark humour. Also when Morley gets shot as well, and he's sort of gargling in his own blood, and she's trying to throw money at them, bring him back. That's not how life works. That was dark humour as well. And then in that moment, just crushing for the Mavashi character, she's realising, as she's lost her sort of partner in crime, her friend, that the money's fake. There's so much stuff going on in this movie. It's layered, it's dense as hell. Just little stuff, throwaway things that are not even that important to Akash and Simi and the sort of primary plot. There's density within the side.
I mean, Akash is
elements of the story.
He's definitely a reactionist. I mean, his purpose and his goal in life was to get to London. That's all he wanted. You know, he had his own life. He had his own life sorted, and he was just going on. And then he was the wrong guy in the wrong place at the wrong time. And then, as I said, you know, reactionary. He's reacting to the way he's been prodded with people, particularly the Simi character. You know, and he will extract some revenge on her, and that's where the character has to develop. That's where the character has to become believable. He can't be this goody two shoes for the first half of the movie, then turn dark. There's that prodding going on throughout the film, and that's down to good writing, John.
And Stephen, the final thing I'll say in terms of structure and elements being introduced and then concluded at the end of the movie, the song he's working on, it's finished. It's not finished. It's haunting him. He's becoming frustrated. He has all these sort of interactions, and then by the end of the movie, it's bookmarked. He's finished the song.
No stone is left unturned. You know, that's down to the director, John, and the writers.
He's a complete man. He's went through this journey, and he's finally finished the music as well. I thought that was sort of this movie in a microcosm, if you'd like. But in terms of the actual story, Stephen, how do you feel the story? I mean, away from the structure element, do you feel like the story felt fulfilling when it was all concluded?
Yeah.
Just in terms of what they were doing here, but what did you make of the story, Stephen? Because obviously it's about this guy faking blindness. He's thrust into a horrible situation, and then he actually does become blind, and then at the end it goes full circle, and it's almost like you have to go through the horrors of actual blindness to realise that you shouldn't be fucking faking it, but he doesn't. He fakes it right at the end as well.
I mean, John, I will say one thing in terms of story. He didn't have to kick that can at the end. He didn't. I thought that was too on the nose. And I was like, no, just leave that. You don't need that, because we get it. If you watch enough of these thrillers and you're watching enough film, and you mentioned Chris Nolan there, John, we get it. We don't have to have it on the nose. It always bugged me about The Dark Knight Rises when they had that scene about the automatic pilot thing being deactivated. I'm like, we don't fucking need that. That's just paint by numbers storytelling. Trust your audience and don't put that in. You don't have to have them kick the can. We get it, you know. But in terms of the actual story, John, I thought it was a very interesting story, and it's the classic being the wrong guy at the wrong place at the wrong time, as I mentioned, you know, and how you deal with that. And you can't have your character staying the same throughout the movie. He's got to be reacting to the situation and reacting to the other characters that are around them that put them in that situation. And I felt they did that very organically with the Cash character, where he went from just being very dedicated musician, keeping himself to himself, bit of a love interest with Sophie, and then everything just goes to shit, you know, and how he deals with that.
And it's almost a lesson, as I say, Stephen, of not going too far into these sort of false lives, if you'd like.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of fantasists out there that will take themselves down avenues you shouldn't be going down.
Yeah.
And they're backed into a corner. And he's ultimately backed into a corner by Simi. She knows he's lying.
Yep.
She gives him this offering. He has to take it. He can't say, no, I'm not fucking taking that. Because he's crafted such a web of lies, and with this whole blindness thing, it's took him into this horrific situation. He ultimately is robbed of his sight for real.
Yeah.
And where that takes him, it must have took him to a really dark place, the actual character. For him to go full circle at the end, he must have became a better rounded person by the end of that fucking movie. And I feel like his ability to finish the song, as I keep saying, without...
It's a bit of symbolism, John, I think.
It's symbolic that he is now... He was incomplete, now he is complete.
Yeah.
So it wasn't for nothing. That's what I'm saying. He's maybe not got to London. I don't know if he'd ever did get to London, but he's in France, it looks like, Central Europe.
It does look like France, yeah.
And he's became this sort of respected musician. People are coming up and shaking his hands. He is where he wants to be. Sophie seems happy as well.
Yeah, yeah.
The good people ultimately have got their just desserts, and Simi has been harvested for organs and got her just desserts. A vile, vindictive person, if you like. I enjoyed the story as well, Stephen. I enjoyed it. I like a good cerebral story. It was a little bit overcomplicated in parts. If I wasn't editing it and watching it again, there would have been elements that went over my head. I'm not going to lie. Even now, I could probably go back and watch it again. Yeah. And there'd be more things I'd see.
But you can do a comparison and say, many times did you watch Pulp Fiction before you understood the whole structure of the film? It's just one of those things that a layered film may take multiple viewings. It has got rewatchability. Because you know, it's not just a case of I need to watch this again because I can't understand a thing that's happening here. It's things that you might have just missed, subtle things. You know,
and you've got to commend Sriram Raghavan, for having the balls to take on such a complex story, which is dense in all of its various elements, and see it through to the end, delivering great performances. It was well wrote, Stephen. The story, for me, was one of the absolute standouts in this movie. Sort of little niggles aside, in terms of performances, there's a couple of standouts in here. Obviously, Anil Dewan is Pramod Sina. He's not the primary standout, but the brief moments he's in the movie, he strikes me as such maybe not modest, but he's a righteous character. He's obsessed with his past. His past sort of glory, but he's a fundamentally good guy. He's trying to please this wife figure who's a lot younger than him.
You see him coming home with the box of chocolates, the flowers and the wine. I think that's just to highlight. I think there's a 20-year gap between the actors. I don't know what the gap was between the characters, but it's just to show he is a nice guy, he is a good guy, and Simi must have saw something in him at some point, you know, not just an old guy that's a bit of a has-been. So, well, that's that as well, I suppose. But you're absolutely right, John. We talked about this at the very beginning when I introduced when I was mentioning the actors, you know, involved in this film, and I think those 5 are the sort of standouts. You've got your primary cast and then your secondary cast. They're definitely, when you look at the likes of Tabu, Ayushman, Radhika, Anil, and is it Manav? I think they're your main 5 characters in this, and then obviously you get the Doctor, etc. after that, and your sort of secondary cast. But I thought the casting was fantastic. There was, again, it was all about different personalities all coming together in this sort of storyline. You know, there was no 2 characters similar.
No, Stephen, they all fulfilled their duties. Radhika played the sort of romantic interest very well. Also at the end, she has her moment with Akash.
Yeah, I mean, she's the
with Ayushmann, obviously
she's the sort of moral of the story. You know, the sort of the one with the morals. You know, and the one that's she's not done the dirty on anyone. You know, she's very attracted to Akash. You know, and she can see obviously he's a very handsome man. He's very talented and a likeable person as well. And you see that connection between the two of them. Obviously through Radhika Apte, the performance, you can see that.
Yeah, and
the chemistry.
Stephen and Manav, as we spoke about, very physical, almost silent.
Yeah,
actor in
it was good.
Parts.
Yeah, it was.
He
good.
brought he certainly brought the comedy for me with his final scene in the movie when he shoots a loaded firearm in a small metallic confined space.
Yeah.
What did you think was going to happen there, Manaha? It's going to ricochet and hit you, mate. You're the only fucking soft thing in that environment. It's going to hit you at some point. That was one of the stupidest fucking things I've seen a character do in a film, and it was almost
his wife was good as well, Ashwini.
She was good.
Kaliskar or something.
Yeah,
like
I think that was the wife's name.
Just that scene where she shot the gun. He's cowering in the room.
Yeah, that was brilliant. And you can almost understand why he was fucking trying to get away there and maybe explore different options. She's almost more psychopathic than him, and he is a killer. But Stephen, also Ayushmann and Taboo, they for me are the two standouts in this movie. Radhika did well, I enjoyed her. She's not in it enough. Ayushmann, it's a movie about him.
Yeah.
Ultimately, and he is the sort of master of ceremonies, as you did say. I thought he'd done a fantastic job. He brought real love, interest, sort of romantic stuff at the start. I thought he did a great job with that. He brought the sort of real pain of someone losing their sight in the middle of the movie. It felt, I'm trying to think of the word that's springing to mind, and nothing is really capturing the sort of horror that you would experience if you lost your sight.
Yeah.
But he brought the horrors to sort of real life. I don't even know what I'm saying here. He brought the horrors.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, John.
He realised it on screen.
Yeah.
It was great performing. The moment he puts his head in the bucket, for me, is one of the best visual moments.
At night, blind. I mean, that
hitting the fucking pole and stuff like that.
Terrifying.
And as you did mention, just the sort of hoodwinking moments in the bathroom, in the apartment. But Stephen, just brilliant acting, physical acting. First time I've seen this guy, as you mentioned. We've seen him in 2 trailers. I want to see more of this guy's work. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. Akash, he's one of the standouts. For me, Taboo, though, is going to steal it as a standout performer. She does a brilliant villainous turn in this movie. She isn't. I mean, I was calling her a sort of psychopath in the watch along. I think she was an evil Black Widow. But when you think about it, I still don't. I'm not convinced she. Obviously, she didn't. It was actually Manath. I think it was the Manath character Manohar who fires a shot. I think it was all a big misunderstanding. They got the timings wrong. He does slip. The gun maybe gets fucking picked up. Something happens. He gets killed.
Yeah, she's never shown, is it?
It's never shown.
Yeah.
I think she's just put in the. Also, she kills the neighbour, but the neighbour was a bastard. She deserved it. She had to clean up the loose ends. She spares Akash. She doesn't want to kill Akash. She says at one point to Manohar, I don't want to turn into some serial killer, but this has to end somewhere.
Yeah.
So although she is playing a real villain, I don't think she's an out-and-out fucking devil reincarnate character. She's just been thrust into a really bad situation and she's had to do some crazy
Still a
things.
Murderer, John.
She's a murderer, but she brought some humour as well, Stephen.
John,
you can't overlook the crutch scene. You can't overlook.
We're talking about the actor as well here, and you know when an actor can portray someone that gets under your skin the way that Simi does, then you know they're a good actor. You know, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of her work. She's obviously got a career behind her before this film as well that we have to check out, but you can sense that, you know, whenever this actress is in the room, she owns the room. She certainly did in this film, and you're absolutely right. If I was to pick between Ayushmann and Taboo, I would probably just edge it with Taboo, I think, because sometimes actors prefer playing the villains. They have more fun, because when you're playing the sort of the hero, he's not much of a hero, but he's more the sort of light side to the dark side, if you like. Actors like that because they can be a wee bit more flexible in terms of how they come off. And I can imagine the director. I've read some of the actual trivia in this film, John. The director gave them a lot of sort of leeway in terms of, you know, being spontaneous, or I'm trying to think of the word.
Improvisation.
Improv, yeah.
I got the word I was looking for as well, Stephen. Visceral. The visceral horror of losing the eyesight. Ayushman did a brilliant job.
I think for me, Taboo is just edging it.
Yeah, Stephen, look, Taboo was brilliant. The moments that spring to mind for me that really emphasise how good the performance was. Just the stuff in the apartment with Manaha, obviously.
She was the one that slapped the child, wasn't it?
We
don't see it, do we?
No, I think that was Sophie that slapped
it?
the child, yeah. She just deleted the video as a sort of fucking, again, pantomime villain. Now no one knows that he was not truly blind, and I've blinded him. I have won. Now you can focus on being a musician. Well, he doesn't. He focuses on taking your eyes so you can see Welsh you're harvested for your organs, you fucking bastard. Oh, brilliant performance from her. Also the apartment stuff, the moment she throws the neighbour off the balcony, it's great. The stuff in the actual storeroom in the hospital when she's blindfolded, she's telling him, he takes the blindfold off, she's trying to get the scissors to cut and release herself, she's directing him, deliberately throwing him into walls and stuff like that, and then smirking. Just brilliant little performances in there. So I thought she was absolutely outstanding, Taboo. Her and Ayushman though are the two best for me. Technical stuff, Stephen.
Yeah. There's not too much technical things
not,
I want to really get into.
There's some really good shots in there.
In terms of music, I think we can't not ignore the music. The music in this was fantastic. I always find with music films though, John, that sometimes the music kind of clouds the actual score in the film, and there was a score in the film, but for me the music obviously has to stand out because the biggest part of the story is obviously the music. And I was so involved in listening to the music throughout the sequences as well. I just thought the music was fantastic.
I really enjoyed the one where they were singing about the kidney. I think it was the kidney scene when he's in the hospital. That was a good song. A lot of really good catchy stuff in the actual bar as well when he's playing and they're up and dancing and stuff like that.
Yep.
Obviously the one at the end is probably the best for me because that's just him. I think that's hugely symbolic, the song. It just bookends where the character's been, where he's at now. It's the whole story. He was incomplete, now he's complete. And he was also playing a blind man, now he's completed, and he's still technically playing a blind man. I don't know why I keep trying to get down and find symbol. He's still kidding on, he's blind right at the end of this movie. He's a shyster, a cash. But yeah, the music for me was really good. I enjoyed the score. I thought the score was not the standout for me. I agree with you, it was the actual songs that were the standout, and that's why the music belongs in the genre. Sort of part of this, the comedy crime music, that's definitely got musical elements in it. It goes back to what I says earlier, very La La Land like. Technical stuff in terms of the actual cinematography, I thought the cinematography was very, 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 very good. The scene you mentioned it, Stephen, as well, that springs to mind is when Manahar's running up the stairs, trying to get to the level where the briefcase is.
It's a very easy shot to, one of those sort of telescopic cameras you get on the string, just pull it up. But it's very effective.
It's very effective. But there's other stuff going on in there as well, sort of wide shots of the house. The moment with the bucket, I keep going on about this bucket.
That was a great shot,
but it's brilliant.
That was Tarantino-esque.
It was Tarantino-esque, Sort of how they made that work, I don't know. I'd imagine there'd have been glass, the camera's there, the water's above.
I never thought of that, actually, you're right.
It's very well done. It's a great shot. It's simple in nature, but it's very effective in showing you where this guy's mindset is. It's sheer panic, again, the visceral horror of being blinded after. And you'd think with him being playing this blind character throughout the movie or throughout his life to this point, he'd have got a sort of a feel for what it's like to live in this world. He's been using the blindfolds, he's had the actual contact lenses on, which must distort his sight. But he was fucking completely lost, like he was in a maze, like a rat in a lab maze. Lost, this guy, when he actually lost his sight. And you see the panic, you see him screaming, he's fucking acting irrationally. I want my sight back, you've got to do it. That was evil, as if this character who's killed people is not evil before that moment. You were willing to go along with the death of a poor innocent woman who's, I know is a bastard, but now that she's blinded you, she's evil. But I digress, man. Some brilliant technical stuff going on in there. I really enjoyed that. That's always important as well in a movie like this, especially when you've got this guy living a double life, that you're sort of seeing those little elements, you're seeing the little moments where he's catching them doing things and he has to stay one step ahead.
That's it,
The bizarre moment with the ghost face, and just them trying to catch him out when he's in the apartment, that's captured well. I don't know what the soundtrack was all about in that moment. That was a bit fucking weird. But still, I think there may have been a will what the fuck do you call it? A Wilhelm scream? I don't know if there
Wilhelm
was
scream, yeah.
when the old woman. I may be wrong there. May not.
I'll have to go back and check that, yeah.
It may have been when the actual scream mask popped up. Lord
Yeah.
knows. But technically, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Is there anything else to touch upon before we get to the actual end? Maybe discuss the ending itself, Stephen, because we never truly discussed the whole rabbit thing. Coming back to the rabbit again. When I realised, before we even seen the rabbit, I kind of realised that they were going there.
Yeah, John, you mentioned it, and I actually said, I think you're right here, John. I think I know it. And when they do get to see that sort of scene, and it kind of bookends, it just kind of, it's almost like an Ouroboros. The actual story goes full circle. And I think I love it when that happens in a film and it just, everything falls into place. You see it in our reaction. We're like, oh, yes, that's it. Yeah, and it just, everything fits. I love it when they do that. There's, and we have to commend the director again and the writers, in terms of just tying those loose ends. I know we talk about, obviously, the inspector not getting that sort of loose end. Did he survive the shot? Did he not? He died. As far as I'm concerned, he died.
He was stuck in that.
But, John, it was just a great ending. It was just perfect the way, and everything just fell into place after that, After that sort of hectic period, the last 40 minutes, prior to the last 10 minutes, I would say. So you've got that half hour of just mentalness. Everything just started falling into place. It's a hard thing to do in that short space of time. And
visually, technically, really well imagined rabbit. Even down to the blind eye, just brilliant.
Yeah, CG was fantastic. Yeah,
and also it was all fantasy. Because he was making this story up for Sophie. Again, showing you this sort of deviousness within this character. He's not goody two shoes. This guy, he will lie if it suits his agenda. And we've seen that time and time again throughout the actual story. It's one constant trait with this guy. He is the good guy in terms of the overall picture.
Yeah.
But he is not fucking whiter than white, sort of deity, religious figure. This guy has got some darkness in him as well. I enjoyed the end. I agree with you though, with the whole sort of smashing a can thing. That was a bit on the nose.
Yeah.
But it is what it is, man. Some people maybe required it. I suspected that he had sight, because I could see through the glasses as well, and I could see his
body language as well was a little bit more confident. He knew his whereabouts, kind of thing, And
he's playing the fucking piano, and he's playing it well.
Yeah.
Which I'd imagine as a guy who was truly blind, who was kidding on he was blind, and who was good in the piano when he was kidding on he was blind, wouldn't be that good when he was actually blind. I think that's, what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
it's clear.
Yeah.
Very convoluted, but I digress. Stephen, rounding it up, overall thoughts on this movie. Look, we've watched many movies that are similar to this, that have many twists and turns at the end. Off the top of my head, you think of The Usual Suspects, you think of Pulp Fiction, you think of multiple fucking Nolan movies. There is a myriad of Western movies that are like this. The Heist one as well with Edward Norton.
Yeah.
And I think Pacino, potentially. I don't know if Pacino was in that. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Can't remember. One. Yeah.
There's loads of movies like this. I love these movies. I love cerebral storytelling when it's done right. That's why I'm a huge fan of like Tarantino, of Nolan, of people who push the envelope when it comes to storytelling, with the script, with the performances out of the actors, and seeing it all come together nicely. I think they did a brilliant job with this story. I thought throughout I was riveted. I never wanted to stop watching it. That's usually a good sign.
Yep.
We actually changed this from a 4-part reaction to a 3-part reaction
because
it was that fucking good.
Yeah.
So I can't be talking the story down. I can't be talking the film down when I was enjoying it that much. Ultimately, what is rating a movie? It's all about your enjoyment, your takeaway. You can get all convoluted and break it down as we did for 40 odd minutes, but ultimately it comes down to how much enjoyment did you get out of the movie. I enjoyed this movie a tremendous amount.
Yeah, I would agree, John, in terms of, and you've seen it time and time again because you do the editing and when we're doing the watch along, so I think you'll get more of it in terms of depth than I will. In terms of a first time viewing, I felt structurally it was as good as it was going to get in terms of all the sort of twists and turns in that last 40 minutes, making it as organic and believable as possible. Because that's a very hard thing to do in terms of what's coming next. I didn't see that coming. And sometimes I think if they overdo that, it could piss your audience off. Mm-hmm. And I think they've just done it and they've pulled the reins in just at the right time. And I think they handled that well. I got a lot out of this film, John. It's, again, I enjoy films mostly when they're layered and I want to go back and see them again because of the things I missed. I got that in the likes of Pulp Fiction. a lot of the Coen Brothers stuff as well. But I also like, just touching on the Coen Brothers stuff, is that sort of simple situation that they put themselves into. It's not simple. Somebody's been obviously murdered or died.
But there is
they've made it more complicated than it had to be,
Yeah.
you know, and tying all these loose ends up. If they just thought it through, I'm talking like a right serial killer here, as if I've planned things, but I don't know how I'd react. I think I would just panic, you know, and that's what I'm talking about. Obviously with our Dash character, I think just seeing him in that room, seeing all this unfold in front of him, and he kept his calm, I just felt that was brilliant. The comedy in it as well, you can't miss the comedy in this film in terms of slapstick and dark humour. I think they got that right. I think they handled it right in the right moments. You take it too far with the slapstick, then it becomes a bit of a nonsense, and you kind of lose the thriller aspect of the movie if they do it too often. But they did it just in the right moments. When it was getting maybe a little bit too dark, they just reined it in a little bit with a little bit of dark humour. I thought they did that really well.
Yeah, totally they balanced it, Stephen.
Yeah.
There was some really dark moments that left you in a low when he loses his sight, but then they quickly change it and they give him the upper hand. He's prank calling. He's sort of saying, look, I'm an inspector, or I'm a private detective, the nation wants to know.
Yeah, that's it.
They don't linger too long on the dark moments. Tonally, I think they got the balance absolutely bang on. I thought, obviously, as you mentioned, the humour, the comedy moments in there, but the balance of these genres, the music, the performances. I enjoyed the movie a hell of a lot, Stephen. We'll get into ratings. It's out of 10. I'm going to give this movie an 8.5 out of 10.
8.5, yeah.
I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was a very riveting experience. It's got great rewatchability. The fact that it is that kind of movie, there's so much going on, there is so much depth, you can blink and miss things. It's not the kind of movie like a Sixth Sense. It's got a twist where it's one and done and it's never the same again after you've seen it. You can go back and rewatch this movie and almost like an episode of The Hustle or something like that, or Columbo, because this doesn't give you a blow by blow of what was happening and then it's the build. There is, you have to actually go back and watch it. So the fact it's got rewatchability, the fact that I really enjoyed the experience of watching it, all the elements, 8.5 for me. I think I could be pushed in,
John,
but I'll give it an 8.5.
It's funny that because, you know, when you get into this kind of rating and when you're getting into a review, it's not until you discuss the film that you sometimes your rating can alter. We've done it ourselves, John. We've either come back down the way or went up the way with the rating. In terms of that, I was going to give it a 7.5, but I'm seeing it through a perspective of someone that's seen it multiple times, and yourself as well, John, things that I forgot about. I'm going to rate this an 8, and based on most of the things you've said, John, but also I like when a film leaves those little blanks that you can fill in as well. They're obvious things, but that's trusting your audience. That's not treating your audience like idiots and treating them like laymen, that you have to paint by numbers and explain everything to them. They left just little bits in there that you could obviously just fill in yourself, interpret yourself as well. And when you do that, you've got a director and writers that are confident enough to do that and trust their audience, then you know you've got a good film.
And it gives the movie longevity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it gives it longevity because you can then go off and theorise about different things. You'll have people disagreeing.
Yeah,
we've seen that with The Dark Knight Rises. Some people think Bruce died. Some people think he survived, and they'll argue online about it till the cats come home. If that's even a saying.
Cows.
I'm terrible with sayings. I make sayings up. I'm
cats
not the worst.
don't come home, they do what they want.
Well, the cats that we had actually didn't come home, to be fair. We lost a couple. No wonder, when I was a child. Fucking
Better off with a cow.
Better off with a cow, yes. But Steve, look, that aside, man, look, I've not got much more to say on the movie. We have spoken the hind legs off of this.
Yes.
And not the cat's hind legs, the cow's hind legs off this movie. We're a good 50 odd minutes in. It's longer than I anticipated it to be, but that's what happens when you're off the cuff and you're doing things without structure.
And we've got reactions to do as well.
Let's go round it up, man.
Yeah.
Steve's gave it an 8. I've gave it an 8.5. What would you give Andhadhun? Or Andhadhun? However you say it. That was someone in the comment section that says that's the way it's pronounced, not I. So don't come after me. Don't kill or shoot the messenger. Don't do a manohar and leave me to die in a darkened elevator over a mispronunciation. What's your thoughts on the movie? What would you rate the movie? Share your thoughts down below about that. Our review, anything you feel compelled to share, can go down below in the comments section. That's the place to put it. You can also like the video if you've enjoyed it and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon. Take notifications straight to your eyeballs. Regardless of what you do though, thank you for watching us. And until next time, me and Stephen are done. Bye bye.